Did you know that cremation, something that sparks heated debates today, isn't even explicitly condemned in the Bible? That's right. While many assume burial is the only acceptable way to honor the dead, the Bible's silence on cremation opens the door to a conversation about faith, tradition, and what really matters when we say goodbye. But hold on. Before you jump to conclusions, we need to take you on a journey through fire, ashes, and hope. Because this is not just about death. This is about understanding life. A man once sat by the side of his dying mother. She had lived her whole life with deep faith, yet she whispered something to him in her final hours that left him shaken. "Don't bury me, cremate me. Let me become part of the wind and the earth." His heart dropped. Cremate? But isn't burial the only way? Isn't that what God expects? If you have ever faced this dilemma, or worried about whether cremation dishonors God, you are not alone. This question has stirred confusion and fear for centuries. And here's the truth. While our traditions are strong, our understanding can sometimes miss the bigger picture. So let's look at what the Bible actually says and doesn't say about cremation. Because somewhere in these ashes, there's a story waiting to bring peace. First, let's face a surprising reality. The Bible is quiet about cremation. No bold commandment says, "Thou shalt not cremate." And yet, in many faith communities, it feels forbidden. Why? The answer lies in cultural traditions. In the Old Testament, burial was the norm. Abraham bought a cave to bury his wife Sarah. Jacob and Joseph both gave clear instructions on how to be buried, not burned. Burial was a sign of honor and respect. But there's something deeper we need to see. Back then, cremation was often tied to pagan rituals, sacrifices, and beliefs that opposed God. That's why many people believe cremation is dishonorable, even today. But is it really about fire and ashes, or is it about the heart? Think about Job. He lost everything: his wealth, his children, his health. At one point, he sat in the dust, scraping his sores with broken pottery. In his grief, he said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I shall return. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." Notice something here. He understood that our bodies, whether buried or burned, ultimately return to the earth. Dust to dust. Ashes to ashes. The form doesn't matter. The faith does. In modern terms, this lesson resonates with those grieving today. Whether we scatter ashes over the ocean or lay someone to rest in a casket, God looks at our reverence, not the method. Because in the end, it's not about how we say goodbye. It's about why. Let's pause here and think about fire for a moment. Fire in the Bible is not just destruction, it's purification, it's renewal. Malachi 3:3 says, "He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver." God uses fire to refine, to purify, to make things new. Isn't that what we do when we grieve? We're stripped down and refined through our pain. We're made new as we release our loved ones back to God. Cremation, in its own way, mirrors this process. Take, for example, families who scatter ashes over mountains, rivers, or places of deep meaning. It's not about destruction, it's about finding peace. It's about letting go. If you have ever held someone's ashes in your hands, you know, the weight is light, but the meaning is heavy. That's because it's not about what remains. It's about what that person left behind in your heart. If this perspective is giving you clarity, stay with me. This video is about helping you see hope through the ashes. If you're gaining something valuable here, subscribe to the channel for more content that connects faith to real-life struggles, because your questions deserve answers. and hope. Here's where it gets even more powerful. If you're still unsure about cremation, let's talk about the resurrection. 1 Corinthians 15:42 reminds us, "The body that is sown is perishable. It is raised imperishable. Whether buried or burned, our earthly bodies will be transformed." Cremation doesn't stop God. Ashes don't limit his power. Remember Lazarus? Jesus stood outside his tomb and said, "Lazarus, come forth." After 4 days of decay, Lazarus walked out. God's power over life and death isn't constrained by our human rituals. He breathes life into dust, and he breathes life into us. So, if you're wrestling with this decision, hear this. God sees your heart. Your love for someone isn't measured by the method. It's measured by the legacy of love you carry forward. A woman named Maria once faced this very choice when her father passed away. Her church community pressured her to bury him traditionally. But her father had always loved the sea, fishing, swimming, just staring at the waves. In his final days, he made one simple request: "Let me return to the ocean." Maria chose cremation. On a clear morning, she scattered his ashes into the water, tears streaming down her face. It was painful, yes, but in that moment, she felt peace. Her father wasn't in the ashes, he wasn't in the waves, he was in her heart. Sometimes, honoring someone means letting go of expectations and trusting that God understands our intentions. Here are 2 bonus facts for you. 1. In 1 Samuel 31, King Saul and his sons' bodies were burned and their bones buried, a sign of respect after they fell in battle. This shows that even in biblical times, cremation was sometimes practiced without condemnation. 2. Cremation is on the rise globally, even among Christians. In places where burial is impractical or unaffordable, cremation has become a practical and accepted choice for families. So, does cremation dishonor God? The Bible's answer is clear. No. It's not about ashes or burial. It's about our hearts, our hope, and our faith in a God who promises resurrection. If you're facing this choice, take comfort in knowing that God is not limited by fire, dust, or decay. Your loved one's soul is safe in His hands. Their legacy is safe in yours. And when the time comes for you, remember this: whether buried or burned, your story is not over. The God who created life from dust will write the final chapter, a chapter filled with hope, joy, and eternity. If this video gave you clarity, peace, or even just a new way of seeing things, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Someone out there may need this message today. Let's spread hope, one story at a time.